So, hello and welcome along to another edition of Isolation Interviews for Hospital Radio Reading and my YouTube channel. And I'm super excited to be joined by the very talented Shobna Gulati. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me. It's lovely to be here today.
Now, obviously, let's start off by talking about, the weird sort of couple of years that we've had. I mean, how have you been? How have you found just this kind of weird world we find ourselves in?
It's been. I think it's been extraordinarily difficult. I think for a lot for everyone, and my heart goes out to everybody who've lost friends and family. Really, I think it's you know, I think it was a shock for everybody, and then how to negotiate the shock, and then it's been a very sad time actually, very isolating, very alone. Um, I think as a performer, it's been difficult to navigate in a sense that it's been hard to um, sort of. I'm very keen on live theatre, so it's been very hard to not do that, because being a performer is very much a part of who I am. But given I've said all of that, I think it's been I always try and look for the sort of the opportunity in times like this. And I think it's been a time where I've sort of figured out a little bit more about myself and my relationship with the world. And, I've had time to do that.
I
Um,
mean, obviously, one of the things,
because I've never really had time like that before.
I mean, that's the thing is obviously everyone's had extra time that they wouldn't normally get. I mean, did you find yourself sort of learning any new skills, doing anything different that you haven't done before?
Yeah, I wrote a book. I wrote a book in I wrote a book in lockdown. I think that came out of sort of having COVID. I finished, our tour was cut short, um, by the announcement that we were all locking down. Whatever that meant at the time, we didn't really know what that actually meant, but or how long it would be for, or what it was, or what we were, coming into. So yeah, in March. I was there at the theatre and then I wasn't, and then a couple of days later I got COVID. But the thing is nobody said that I had COVID, and we couldn't test that it was COVID, and couldn't get in touch with a doctor except via 111. And luckily I did, because that doctor on 111 saved my life. Because interestingly enough, within a few days of leaving the tour, I had already secondary pneumonia. Now, if you like, I'm the kind of person who just carries on. So I hadn't really thought about it in any which way that I was feeling really not well. I did say to the company manager I didn't feel too well, but there was no way to test what that was. And anyway, as it would have it, we were locked down, and I came home and I was seriously ill, and I was ill for quite a long time, and I do have to say I have long COVID. It's not easy, but thank goodness I still have my life, because that might not have happened if it hadn't been for one duty doctor who saved my life, who diagnosed what I had, and then um, it was the pneumonia that probably would have killed me.
I mean, what would you say to, the amazing NHS that we have, the work that they've done, not just over the last 2 years, but just forever really. What would you say to them?
No, I just have to say thank you. The thing is about the NHS is that my father was a doctor, and when he came post-war to help, rebuild the country as we know it, and he finished his training in England. When I say training, I wrote about this in the book, because it wasn't really training. He was set to work immediately as he came over, because it was a ruse. Training was a ruse. It wasn't really real. And my father was a socialist, and also a keen supporter of this new NHS. at the time, and he believed in healthcare for all, and he really, really did. And he was the kind of man, he never did private medicine. He worked solely and put all his commitment into that job. Unfortunately, we lost him when I was about 19 years old. He was, he was just a real character. So, we lived in hospital as children, and then, when my dad became a GP, we moved out and lived in, lived in a house. But, that hospital life has been part of my life for, my early years. So it's something that's really sort of ingrained into my psyche, what the NHS is, what it brought, how many, you know, what it's done for my family and what my family have done for it.
I mean, we must obviously mention the book is called Remember Me. I mean, what was the writing process like for you? Because I mean, I imagine, having to delve back and sort of relive things, that must have been, hard, but also that, there must have been joy in that as well.
I think there was an urgency because I thought I might die. And I know it sounds really sort of dramatic, and perhaps she's an actress and then, this is what she says. But it was really real. And there was an urgency to get this story out because these kind of stories are not really in the public eye. The narrative of my family. Yeah, okay, so we're aware that people came to England. We're not aware why they came. Uh, Nobody was aware that my mum was actually born in England. My mum was born in 1940 during the war. You know, the relationship between England and India and empire. Now, obviously, if you look at any Twitter, everybody will give you a history lesson. But, this kind of thing I wanted to share because it's not just about the history. It's also about why. And I've spent my life explaining myself as when I became famous, you get a lot of journalists asking you questions, and I felt like, why do I have to explain my family history when I should be just talking about my acting? So it was an opportunity for me in that moment to feel very connected to my mum because my mum had dementia. And in a sense, we were locked down. And I thought about that. I thought about the isolation of being in your head. And I don't know quite how the symptoms manifest in somebody's mind because obviously you can't get into that person's head. But, you know, I felt very, very close to her. So at that point, I thought, well, the world is quiet. So there you go. I'll write this story. And, I'll write it from, it's me as opposed to, through anybody else's eyes. And I felt that there was a need for that. So I did it. I mean, I, yeah, I think I'd like to write again.
Now, I wanted to go back to where it all began for you. I mean, where did the kind of the interest in acting come from? Was there ever a kind of a thought process of maybe following in your dad's footsteps, or was it always acting for you?
Well, there was always the thought process that I would be a doctor, like any of us. I come from a family of four, and there's four siblings, and four of us, and yeah, it was academically we were encouraged to achieve, and being a doctor is the best profession. So yeah, I mean, the irony of it is I am a doctor now, but a doctor of the arts, which is, not a doctor of science. Science was very, very pushed in the family. But having said that, so was art, because my father loved to sing, and my mother loved to sing but wasn't a singer. uh, and the family was we were a very musically oriented family, and reaching a point in our lives where, you know, my dad, my dad had my dad was settled as a GP, I had some opportunities to learn to play the piano and things like that. And my father and mother were very keen on that too. So it was kind of like we were going to be all rounders. I remember reading a paper, my dad's college paper, because I found all sorts of things when I was writing the book, and after my mum died, there was all sorts of bits and pieces everywhere across the house where I could piece together uh, memory and everything. Then there was this little cutting of my dad in a goal, lying on the floor, saying, "Gulati, let's 7 in" or something. But he was an all rounder. He played cricket, he played football, he was really good academically. He was an all rounder. So I think that was his main aim, was for us to be all rounders. It just so happened that I really took the arts to my heart.
I mean, one of the
Yeah, I mean, it was hard. It was hard to sort of explain that, but I was quite a quiet child as well, and a bit sort of. My sisters were very, very front of camera. They were in a pop band. This was the 70s. My sisters were out there. My family life was pretty open and allowing, right against all the stereotypes that you hear about. You know, we were a very out there kind of family, much to the chagrin of the society around us. But my sisters were in this pop band. They wore glamorous clothes. They sang Bollywood and they sang ABBA. Wow. And I was a bit sort of like a bit hidey in the background. So, I was encouraged to play the piano. We all did. And then there was dance. And there was this Indian classical dancer who was offering classes. And my dad said, "Well, let's see what she does with that. That might bring her out of her shell." And it did.
I was going to say, I mean, obviously, one of the sort of the projects sort of early on in your career was, of course, Dinnerladies, which was fantastic and such an amazing show. I mean, I only found myself in lockdown rewatching it. That's because I think it's on Netflix at the moment, and then
Oh,
sort
no,
of
we're on BBC iPlayer now.
BBC. There we go. So obviously it's it's out there for people to watch. I mean, I had Maxine Peake on only the other week, and talking to her about the memories of working on that show, and with Victoria Wood. I mean, what were your memories of working on that show?
Oh, well, me and Maxine were always called the younger two. Me and Maxie, you know, me and Peaky were like the younger two. And even though Maxine was really younger than me, but we were just the more, what's the word? The more inexperienced. Because it was our first television job. So it was kind of like, and we were in awe. I think we were in awe. Well, I was especially in awe of everybody, I think, and there was a lot of pressure. And I don't know whether Maxine told you the story of when what happened was we would film it. We would work all week and then we'd film it on the Friday night. And on the Saturday morning, Vic would make us watch it, all of us in a room. And, she'd say, "This works, this doesn't work, whatever." And then we'd refilm it. And then between the two bits of filming, it was cut together. And any things that sort of anything that irked in the comedy was sorted out and then relearnt and then shot on the Saturday. So it was quite stressful because quite quick, you know, and to be watched on the Saturday morning, all of us sort of sitting there. And I know that this is a bit of artistic license, but it felt like me and Maxine were sitting cross-legged at the bottom of this thing, watching this thing and learning and learning. I mean, what a privilege to learn in that environment about comedy, about delivery, about timing, about acting, with those people, those hugely talented women. Oh, and men. I mustn't forget the men. But, it's kind of, right, it was extraordinary. I mean, literally sitting there like two little girls, like on the floor, go, and with our hearts in our mouths, because obviously everything was picked apart to be put back together again.
And I
Hence
mean,
it.
I was going to say, because obviously one of the things that me and Maxine were talking about was the fact that, you get these shows that are so popular and they're, big stunts and all that kind of thing. But the thing with Dinnerladies is it didn't need any of that. It was purely just, the comedy and just Victoria's writing just shone through. She said it was
Yeah.
like a piece of music and, one wrong
Oh,
note and, one wrong word or something. And
well,
it
yeah,
would,
yeah, it is. It is. Victoria writes like music. I mean, you've got commas, you've got full stops, you've got apostrophes, and the commas, the full stops, the apostrophes, the semicolons. They're like the dynamic. So they're like your quavers, your crotchets, your semitones, your yeah. So you are. It is beats, and it is beats, and we'd have conversations. Vic would say, "Go straight to the end of the line, Shobna," and I'd go, "Okay." And then somebody else would say, "Oh no, no, you get a laugh there if you did it there," and then he. But then I kind of, I kind of stuck with Vic, and that has served me actually, and that still continues to serve me. Um, some things you have to let go in order to give, and it's not about. It is like performing. I mean, I've learnt this over time, and I think the seeds were sown then by Victoria when she says, "Just get to the end of the audience. It's up to the audience what they want. It's not up to me. I
uh,
mean, I can technically deliver it so that they can have an experience of it, but it's really their experience. You know, it's not mine to. It's not mine to give. It's them. It's for them to have. And I think that's what I learned. And that seed was sown, and that has served me ever since.
I mean, the other project, of course, that you were hugely popular in and successful in was, of course, Coronation Street, which must have been another huge honor to go on a show which is loved by the whole nation. I mean, what was that like for you to play Sanita?
Well, it was always a dream because it was my mum's favourite programme. I mean, it was my mum's favourite programme. We're talking everything stopped, tea happened before, nobody moved. If we hadn't cleared up by 7:30, there would be trouble. You know, you know, door was shut. Where's mum? She's watching her programme, and that's how it always was. And yeah, so to have the opportunity of being on Dinnerladies and then going for audition for Coronation Street, which I did, um, yeah, and getting it, I just like wow, it was like a dream come true. And I'm from Manchester, and who wouldn't want to work on that soap? You're from the place where the longest running soap in the world is being made with the best stories and the most interesting characters. I mean, icons of television, and they were in my living room. And you walk into that green room on your first day, and you think, flipping heck, wow, I'm in, I'm in this legendary place. It was, working with Vic and then working with those people who have made Coronation Street what it is today. I mean, it's extra. I'm lucky. I mean, I'm lucky. I say I'm lucky, but it's also hard work that gets you there too. It's a combination of the two. Right place, right time. But who got you to that right place, right time in the first place? It's, something did. And it's not just, I wasn't picked off the street. My auditions for Dinnerladies, I had four. I met Maxine in the fourth, the fourth round, and that was very interesting because I think we were whittled down to two sets. So there was two Tonys, There was two Twinkles, there was two Anitas. You know, these we were the ones that Vic didn't know at the time. So yeah, then we were moved in and out of rooms, and obviously Thelma and Annie were already written for, and that was already decided. So you know, we were moved in and out of rooms and in different configurations, and I think one of the last configurations was Andrew, Maxine, and me.
I mean, say that's the great thing with working on shows like Dinnerladies, like Coronation Street. They are an amazing platform as well for your career going forward. I mean, you've obviously it's something that I imagine when you do those, it sort of opens up so many more opportunities. So obviously, when the opportunity came to leave Coronation Street, was that your decision? Was that something you wanted to do, and were you excited for what was to come?
Well, if you remember, I had two stints in Corrie. So the first stint, no, it wasn't my decision to leave. Um, I was written out. And then sort of, oh, I thought, right, okay, written out, fine, let me get on with my life. So I did, I got on with my life. I did loads more live theatre, which I really enjoy. You know, you hone your craft. And then they asked me to come back. And I thought, well, I don't know whether I want to do that. But, you know, circumstances are that I am a single parent and my child needed something in his life that I could give him that opportunity if I went back. So I went back, and I thought, I suppose some side of me thought that there was unfinished business. So yeah, I went back, and then I was written out again. So I think, yeah, no, so that's it now. I'm dead now, so I can't come back again. So that's a definite writing out, I think.
I mean, I know when I interviewed Julie Hesmondhaus, obviously about leaving the role of Haley, and I think for her, she was glad to be kind of killed off in the end because it meant that she could only look forward, and there wasn't that sort of, oh, do I,
Yeah,
will I go back? So I
I mean,
imagine for you, it was great to know that, right, that's that chapter gone.
yeah,
Let's move on.
absolutely. And I think that, you know, Julie's got it. You know, you can then reinvent yourself. But I have to say, if they let me go from Corrie, they need to take down my pictures. That's the thing, though. I think that what's different about Julie is that she didn't leave a legacy of children. And the thing is when you and I think in any character in soap opera will say this, that when you have a um, you know, you leave a legacy, then you're always sort of attached to it, even if you're dead. I mean, which is wonderful in one way, but for me, it hasn't completely gone. Because, you know, I get, with social media as it is, I get reminders of what Sunita ought to be doing, and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, who's she? You know, because I've moved on.
I mean, now I just wanted to, of course, talk about what you're doing at the moment because everyone's talking about Jamie is so popular. It's loved all over. Obviously, you're currently doing the sort of the UK tour of it. How is it going? How is it being back in the theatres?
Well, it's marvellous to be doing, everybody's talking about Jamie live again. I mean, it's a job that I went for some years ago now, and it's a job that stayed with me. I mean, I've been lucky enough to do West End, the film, and now the tour. Um, yeah, I love what this job says. I love the story. I love what it brings to people. I love that sense of being in a place where we belong. I think even post, well, not post, we're not post, we're still in this pandemic. Even in this pandemic, I think we've all felt so isolated. To be in a story that brings people together and validates who you are is really important. I think we have lost ourselves as a society, I think. Um, and we've become very separated and very insular, and the pandemic made us even more so because we were in our own little bedrooms, you know, thinking about stuff, and in that thinking about stuff, you can become very insecure and sort of like, your politic changes then, and it can be quite hard. And you look out your window at somebody else in their window, and you think, oh, what have they got? Why have they got that and I haven't got that? Do you know what I mean? It can just go on, and it's in human nature, isn't it? So this show kind of dispels all of that, and sort of recognizes that, and then goes, actually, we all belong. And I love that. So that's keeping me going.
I mean, an amazing cast. I mean, we must mention, of course, Leighton Williams, obviously in the lead. Shane Rich is obviously in the show.
Yeah.
For anyone who hasn't seen the show, give us a little teaser as to what it's
So
about, and what is it
basically,
like working with them?
well, it's wonderful. So at the moment, Shane's gone to do Panto. So we've got Bianca Del Rio herself playing Loco Chanel. So basically, it's about a young lad who's 16, who's just about to leave school, and he wants to go to his prom in a dress. Actually, he wants to go to his prom as a drag queen in a dress. So really, it's about Jamie realizing who his authentic self is and the journey of that. And he's flanked by his ever supportive single mom, who's played by Amy Richardson, who is an extraordinary performer, and her best friend Ray, that's me, um, and then yeah, and his friend Pretty Pasha, who's played by Sharon Full, who is another extraordinary performer. And basically, along the way, along his journey of wanting to go to prom as a drag queen, he meets a character called Loco Chanel, the drag queen. But he doesn't meet her, he meets the man that is Loco Chanel, but who hasn't been Loco Chanel for some time. So he kind of meets his fairy godmother, and yeah, and he does go to the ball, but then you must come and watch to see how that actually manifests.
I mean, we must say at the moment you guys are in Brighton, and I know that you're heading to Southampton in the new year. People should go and see the show because it is fantastic. I mean,
Yeah, we're in Brighton now. It's very nice. Look there, there's a bit of Brighton on the wall. Um, yeah, we're in Brighton right now, and we're here for a few weeks over Christmas, and then in the new year we go to Southampton, and then we go to LA.
which that must be quite exciting as
He says
well.
casually. Yeah, I yeah, I'm very excited about that. I think that would be I'm excited about the sunshine actually, and I'm excited to take this story, this very British story, to America. Uh, I mean, we already know it translates because the film has been released on Amazon Prime and it's gone worldwide and it has been extraordinarily well received. So yeah, I just sort of the up close and personal of it in America. I really want to do. It's something that I would love to share. You know, and yeah, it's all a bit sounds a bit glamorous, but I don't. It's like I've been in the business long enough to know it's not that glamorous. But it's kind of, I think the excitement of sharing it in America is something that I'd like to do. Yeah, and then I'm coming back and I'm going to leave Jamie and start a new tour of the Rise and Fall of Little Voice.
So you must be so excited with obviously, lots more theatre in the new year.
Well, I
Also,
hope so. I hope so. I think, you see, in my mind's eye right now, you've caught me. You've caught me at this point today, this morning, thinking about the pandemic, thinking about new variants, thinking about people, thinking about how we all stay safe. Um, thinking about how we protect one another, and I don't, I don't know. Since it all happened last March for us in Britain, um, you can't really make a plan, can you? So it is planned that we go to America. It is planned that I do the rise and fall of Little Voice, but it may not happen. So I don't know quite what to say about that.
Yeah. I
I
mean,
mean,
fingers crossed it all goes ahead, and we're hoping that obviously, things are a bit unstable at the moment, but we're hoping that sort of, once we get
you
out of
see,
winter.
life. I've taught me that things fall apart. So, much as things fall together, things fall apart. So, I suppose essentially I have to take that rough with the smooth. So that's me at the moment. I just go, okay, I'll just take it. So I've woken up today to speak with you, and it's happened because for ages it couldn't happen, and now it is happening. So that's great.
And I just wanted to briefly ask, obviously, Christmas is around the corner. I mean, what are your plans? I know, obviously, you're you're sort of in Brighton over the sort of festive period, but have you got plans for the day itself?
Yeah, I'd like to see my son because last year I didn't see him because we were locked down and we had uh, Christmas separately, which was weird. And normally when that happens, he goes to the rest of the family. Uh, if that happens and I'm on tour somewhere, but it just felt very sort of like, what are you eating? Like on Facebook. Well, what have you made? And let's have a look at your pictures. And it was just a bit joyless. Uh, and even more so, you think back to people not being able to see their loved ones and all of that, and complying with the rules that we were given, and then as we've discovered, much to our horror, that the people giving out the rules weren't following the rules. So it's just really sad because it was quite a hard Christmas because as I said, friends lost family as well, and they funerals were on Zoom, and oh, that Christmas, I think I want to really, really want to remember. So this Christmas, well, hopefully I'll be with my son. Let's just see. Let's just see. I mean, as I said, that's the plan. And perhaps my sister and her family. My middle sister, Sushma. You see, because traditionally it's me who cooks the Christmas dinner. But I think this schedule is quite tough. Yeah, I know I've had tough schedules before at Christmas. I've even had 3 show days on Christmas Eve, panto, and still cook the dinner. But I suppose I'm just getting older and it's a bit harder.
Now, I just wanted to say it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. But before we go, is there any messages you'd like to give to anyone who is currently stuck in hospital at the moment? What would you like to say to them?
I'd like to say to everybody, have a wonderful Christmas and a happy New Year. And being in hospital is not forever. So just, enjoy the people around you and celebrate as hard as you can.
Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure. Of course, keep safe. And yeah, you're welcome back anytime.
Thank you, Matthew. I've really enjoyed it. I've talked a lot.